So we are going to look through Chapter 3's page first before we go on to Chapter 4. So get your packet for Chapter 3 out. All right. So you had two sections, right? The compare it and the sequence it. Let's look over that compare it first. Has your opinion changed on any characters? Whose has? A lot of yours has. Adam, how has yours changed?
For Marty's dad, because he was a little more kind to
Right at the beginning, Dad seemed kind of strict, and now maybe we're seeing that Dad's a little kinder, a little softer. Who else said Marty's dad? Good. All right. Anyone have a different character that their opinion changed? Thomas, who's yours?
My opinion changed with
Judd.
Dislike him more.
You dislike him more? Why do you dislike him more now?
He's just mean. And now I feel like he's meaner now.
You're learning more mean things he's done, right? So maybe you dislike Judd even more. Did you think that was possible even?
No.
I didn't either. And then we find out all that stuff in Chapter 3, and it's like, does he have anything nice about him? Right? All right, who else said Judd? Anyone else say Judd for their change? All right, anyone have a different character? Amelia?
I think it was Marty because he was deciding because if it was just for Shiloh, he would help out just because if a dog would help out more.
So he's gonna help out more to get the dog?
Yeah.
Like picking up the cans and stuff like that? Okay. And Kateri?
I also do Marty because at start he was he didn't care to shoot anything to scare animals. But when he saw Shiloh, he was scared to the grave to scare him. So I think he's gotten more
Nicer. Is he a little more aware of his surroundings?
Yeah.
Okay. Holly?
And Shiloh's changed because he was scared for Marty to reach his hand out, but now he's okay with Marty holding him.
Right, now Shiloh's, maybe your opinion changed to Shiloh because you thought he was just way too scared. And now maybe he is super friendly, right? He was just scared. All right, let's look over the sequence it. What happened first in our Chapter 3? I'm going to have my book handy just to kind of remind us, too. So if you need that finally to start of Chapter 3. How did our chapter start? How did it start? Zach?
It's still in a bed.
Being a little more specific, it started with Marty trying to sleep and thinking about Shiloh, right? What did he decide? Ryan? He's going to try and buy Shiloh, right? And then we kind of have a lot of stuff that goes into a little more detail. What's the next kind of big thing that happens with Marty? Holly?
He goes on a ride with his... Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He goes on a ride with his...
He goes on a ride with Dad, right? To help deliver mail, right? You could also add somewhere in there talking about Marty collecting cans. You might add that somewhere in there. If you don't have that, that's okay. How did our chapter kind of end? What was the big thing? How did it end? Rose?
Marty told Dad about the Shiloh's name is Shiloh.
Right? He kind of gets up right in front of Judd and was like, his name's Shiloh, right? He kind of got sassy with Judd, didn't he, a little bit? Okay. All right. Monica, did you have a question? No? Okay. Annie, my friends, we are not puppies. Okay. Any other questions on the sequence? Do you think you got most of it in order? Yeah? All right, let's look over Chapter 4, our words to know. So get your pencil out ready for our words to know. This one is, remember when we have pages like this? You might need to kind of lift it up. And I know mine is really hard to tell here. So I might write above it. The word is sycamore. It's SYCAMORE. I might rewrite it just because of the way the packet got stapled. And those two dots, the way it got stapled, it just got stapled funny. Yeah, it's a little close to the edge. All right. A sycamore is, you know what a sycamore is?
No.
No, it's a tree. A tree that has light brown bark. Okay? So it's a certain kind of tree. It has that characteristic of it, that light brown bark on it, okay? And then our next one gets a little crowded too, so I'm going to scribble it out. And it's called a lean-to. Notice it has that hyphen in between that little dash. That means it's joining the words together, okay? Lean-to. Rose?
I think it means kind of like it's either the action lean to or it's like if somebody said like I'll take care of your dogs for you, the person that is letting the other person take care of their dogs for the
Kind of. That's called like lending. That's a little different. They're similar sounding. Monica?
is lean to like where like you're kind of like considering your options like what you want to do, like if somebody says like get the dog or like don't get the dog, like you're like, well,
Not quite. A lean-to kind of goes off of Rose's first one, like to lean against something. But specifically, a lean-to is a small, roughly made building. This is a long one. I'll keep it up. That is built on the side of a larger building.
So it's a small building near a bigger building.
So it's kind of like you take like a board and push it up and use the side of a real building, and then that little space underneath. You're leaning against something else and making a little shelter underneath in that space. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. So it kind of looks like this if you want to draw a little picture. Here's like your building. And then underneath here, you might add like a piece of board or something to kind of cover you. And then you're underneath that little space. It's not attached. This is just like a piece of like cardboard that you might put up, or like people kind of. Yeah, you can go underneath it.
like a small shed.
Kind of like not quite a shed though, more like a fort. Think of a lean-to more like a fort. How you
Kind of
build?
like the Leaning Tower of Pizza.
No.
Pizza.
Holly?
But it's not like a big building, like, is it like?
So if you put like a piece of cardboard against the building, and then you went in that little space. Inside that little space is the.
And then there's the side.
So you're not in the real building. You're in that little space outside of
Kind of like a
it.
basement that's outside.
Kind of. But it's not a permanent thing. It's somebody people usually make just for quick shelter. Okay? All right. So we have those two words. Okay. Our two parts are, our parts today, we got stop and jot. And then we have cause and effect. And we'll talk more about those after. Okay? Stop and jot. Start thinking. Marty's going to make some decisions in chapter 4. You have to decide if he makes good decisions and why or why not. Okay? So, did anyone need the vocab words more?
Oh, me.
Okay. The rest of us, let's get chapter 4 out and open. Okay. And remember, we last left and Marty was trying to raise a lot of what? Money. Why does he want that money?
To buy Shiloh.
To buy Shiloh, right? Okay. You good, friends? Okay. All right. So chapter 4. Mine starts on page 37. Does yours start on 37?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Other than, I think Holly's the only one.
27.
You're probably, and Zane's 27. Okay. All right. So chapter 4 starts. Marty, Dad says when we're around the bend, sometimes you haven't got the sense to shut up. You can't go telling a man what to call his dog. I'm mad too. Better than calling him Git and Scram. Judge Travers has the right to name his dog anything he likes or nothing at all. And you've got to get it through your head that it's his dog, not yours. And put your mind to other things. The Jeep bounces along for a good long mile before I speak again. I can't, Dad, I finally say. And this time his voice is gentle. Oh, son, you gotta try. I eat my peanut butter and soda cracker sandwiches with Dad at noon, plus the zucchini bread Mrs. Ellenson had left in her mailbox for him. And after all the Sears catalog and mail is delivered, we head back to Sistersville Post Office. I get my Coca-Cola at the gas station while Dad finishes up, and we start home. I forget all about looking for cans and bottles. The can I'm holding is the only one I got. Judge Travers goes hunting here every weekend, don't he? I asked Dad. I suppose he does. You can't shoot. You can shoot at just about anything that moves? Of course not. You can only shoot at what's in season. I'm thinking how about a year ago, I was fooling around up on the ridge and came across a dead dog, a dead beagle with a hole in its head. Never said anything because what was there to say? Somebody out hunting got a dog by mistake, I figured. It happens. But the more I think on it now, I wonder if it wasn't Judd Travers shooting a dog on purpose, shooting one of his own dogs that didn't please him. Dad's still talking. We've got a new game warden in the county, and I hear he's plenty tough. Used to be a man could kill a deer on his own property any time if that deer was eating his garden. Warden would look the other way. But they tell me the new warden will fine you good. Well, that's the way it ought to be, I guess. What if a man shoots a dog? I ask. Dad looks over at me. Dogs aren't ever in season, Marty. Now you know that. But what if a man shoots one anyway? That would be up to the sheriff to decide what to do, I guess. The next day I start early and set out on the main road to Friendly with a plastic bag. Get me 11 aluminum cans, but that's all. Could walk my legs off for a year and not even have enough to buy half a dog. The questions I had tried not to think about before come back to me now. Would Jed Travers want to sell Shiloh at all? And how much would he want for him if he did? And even if I got Shiloh for my very own, how was I supposed to feed him? There aren't many leftover scraps of anything in our house. Every extra bite of pork chop or boiled potato or spoonful of peas gets made into soup. If we'd had enough money for me to have a dog and buy its food and pay the vet and everything, I would have had one by now. Dara Lynn's been begging for a cat for over a year. It isn't that we're rock poor. Trouble is that Grandma Preston's got real feeble, and she's being cared for by Dad's sister over in Clarksburg. Have to have nurses any time Aunt Hetty gets out, and every spare cent we got goes to pay for Grandma's care. Nothing left over to feed a dog. But I figure to get to that problem later on. I wonder if maybe in time, if I never see Shiloh again, I'll forget about him. But then I'm lying on the couch that night after everyone else has gone to bed, and I hear this far-off sound again, like a dog crying. Not barking, not howling, not whining even. Crying. And I get this awful ache in my chest. I wonder if it is a dog. If it's Shiloh. I know you want a dog, Marty, Ma says to me on Thursday. She's sitting at the kitchen table with cardboard boxes all around her, folding a stack of letters and putting them in envelopes. Ma gets work to do here at home anytime she can. I wish we had the money so every one of you kids could have a pet. But with Grandma seeming to need more care, we just don't. And that's that. I nod. Ma knows me better than I know myself. But she don't have this straight. I don't want just any dog. I want Shiloh, because he needs me bad. It's Friday morning when I hear the sound. Dad's off on his mail route. Darlene and Becky's watching cartoons on TV. Ma's out on the back porch washing clothes in the old washing machine that don't work. Only the rainer part works if you turn it by hand. I'm sitting at the table eating a piece of bread spread with lard and jam when I hear the noise. I know it's Shiloh. Only the softest kind of noise. And right close. I fold up the bread, jelly to the inside, stick it in my pocket, and go out the front door. Shiloh's under the sycamore, head on his paws, just like the day he followed me home in the rain. Soon as I see him, I know two things. One, Judd Travers has taken his dogs out hunting like he said, and Shiloh's run away from the pack. And two, I'm not going to take him back. Not now, not ever. I don't have time to think how I'd promised Judd if I ever saw Shiloh loose again, I'd bring him back. Don't even think of what I'm going to tell Dad. All I know right then is that I have to get Shiloh away from the house, where none of the family will see him. I run barefoot down the front steps and over to where Shiloh's lying, his tail just thumping like crazy in the grass. Shiloh, I whisper, and gather him up in my arms. His body is shaking all over, but he don't try to get away. Don't creep off from me the way he did that first day. I hold him as close and careful as I carry Becky when she's asleep, and I start off up the far hill into the woods, carrying my dog. I know that if I was to see Judd Travers that very minute with his rifle, I'd tell him he'd have to shoot me before I'd ever let him near Shiloh again. There are burrs and stickers on the path up the hill, and usually I wouldn't take it without sneakers. But if there's burrs and stickers in my feet, I hardly feel them. No, Judd Travers and his hounds won't be over here, 'cause this hill belongs to my dad. Get me as far as that shad bush next to the pine, and then I sit down and hug Shiloh. First time I really have him to myself. First time I can hug him. Nobody looking. Just squeeze his thin body, pat his head, stroke his ears. Shiloh, I tell him, as though he's known it's his name. Judd Travers isn't never going to kick you again. And the way his eyes look at me then, the way he reaches up and licks my face, it's like it seals the promise. I'd made a promise to Judd Travers I wasn't going to keep. Jesus help me. But I'm making one to Shiloh that I will. God strike me dead. I set him down at last and go over to the creek for a drink of water. Shiloh follows along beside me. I cup my hands and drink, and Shiloh helps himself, lapping it up. Now what? I ask myself. The problem is looking me square in the face. I gotta keep Shiloh a secret. That much I know, but I'm not going to keep him chained. Only thing I can think of is to make him a pen. Don't like the idea of it, but I'll be with him as much as I can. I take him back to the shade bush, and Shiloh lays down. Shiloh, I say, patting his head. Stay. He thumps his tail. I start to walk away, looking back. Shiloh gets up. Stay, I say louder, and point to the ground. He lays back down, but I know he's like to follow anyways. So I pull him over to a pine tree, take the belt off my jeans, loop it through the raggedy old collar Shiloh's wearing, and fasten the belt to the tree. Shiloh don't like it much, but he's quiet. I go down the path, and every so often I turn around. Shiloh's looking at me like he won't never see me again, but he don't bark. Strangest thing I ever see in a dog, to be that still. Ma's still on the back porch. When she washes, it takes her near all day. Darlene and Becky stuck to the TV, so I go to the shed by the side of the house, and I take the extra fencing Dad used when he had us more chickens. I take me a piece of wire too, and go back up the hill. Shiloh's still there, and he don't try to get up while I set to work. I strain the fencing around the trunks of 3 small trees for corner posts, and then back to the pine tree again where I fasten it with wire. Pen measures about 6 by 8 feet. I go back down to the shed again, and this time I get the old rotten planks Dad took out of the back steps when he put in the new. Pick me up an old pie tin too. I take the planks up to Shiloh's pen and make him a lean-to at one end to protect him from rain. Fill the pie tin with water so we'll have something to drink. Last of all, I take the lard bread from my pocket and feed it to Shiloh in little pieces, letting him lick my fingers after every bite. I wrap my arms around him, pat him, run my hands over his ears, even kiss his nose. I tell him about 1,000,000 times I love him as much as I love my ma. The worry part is whether or not he'll stay quiet. I'm hoping he will, 'cause he was a silent dog to begin with. But all the way back down the hill to the house, I put my finger to my lips and turn back. Shh, I say. Shiloh, you don't make a sound. Like he had the bark beat out of him when he was a pup, and it just never came back. I'm tense as a cricket that night. Tense when Dad drives up in his Jeep, afraid the dog will bark. Tense when Darlin and Becky are out in the yard playing after dinner, squealing and yelling, afraid that Shiloh will want to get in on the fun and maybe dig a hole under the fence. He never comes. I manage to take a piece of potato and some cornbread up to him before it gets dark. I sit down in his pen with him, and he crawls all over me, licking my face. If he'd been a cat, he would have purred. He was that glad to see me. Tell him I'm coming back tomorrow with some kind of leash for him. Tell him we're going to run all over that hill, him and me, every day. Tell him he's my dog now, and I'm never going to let anybody hurt him ever again. Again, ever. And then I leave, wiring that fence good. I go home and sleep a full night. First time in a long while.
That was good.
All right. All right. So chapter 4. Why do you think back, fourth grade friends, Shiloh doesn't make a sound really ever, does he? Why not? Why doesn't he make a sound? Why doesn't he ever? What do you think, Adam?
Because he might be too scared to bark that he wouldn't kick her.
Why can we make that inference? Why can't we infer he doesn't bark because he's afraid? Why do you think? Zane?
Because Judd hates him.
Because how do we know that Judd hates him?
Because he's always running away and trying to be a real dog.
Right? The Shiloh keeps running away, probably, and we know what did Judd for sure do that we saw? He for sure kicked him, right? So do you think that's why Shiloh doesn't make a sound? I think so too.
Maybe also
He
doesn't want to go back.
He doesn't want to go back. He's like, if I stay quiet, maybe I can stay here. What was my other question? Oh, Marty doesn't want to make a pen for Shiloh. Why wouldn't he want to make a pen for Shiloh? Why wouldn't he want to make one? What do you think, Zach?
Maybe because he wants him to run free and not stay caged up, but then he'll just, he might run away.
He's scared. He wants him to be able to have freedom, right? Because at Judd's house, what happens? He's chained up, right? So what is he afraid of maybe would happen in Shiloh's mind? That he's going to be chained up, right? And maybe Marty is like Judd if he chains him up, okay? But do you think Shiloh thinks that so far?
No.
How can we infer that? Claire?
Like, he's kind of listening to him, and he's, like, not getting too scared when, like, he comes, and he probably knows how he's good. He, like, keeps feeding him.
He's giving him food. How else? What else does Shiloh show that shows he really cares about Marty? What has Shiloh done that shows it? Holly?
Like, he wasn't barking.
He wasn't barking up. Claire said that. What else did he do? Well, what else did he do? Zach? He licks him, right? He's running all over Marty. He's like tackling him. They're playing around in that fence, showing that Shiloh really cares for Marty too. Lily?
Can I go get my sweatshirt?
Yes, quickly, please. All right. So that was our chapter 4. Let's look back at our packet. And let's do the stop and jot. Okay? Do you think Marty made good decisions in this chapter? Yes or no? What do you think? Marty made some decisions about Shiloh. Did he make good ones?
Yes.
Christian?
He did, because if he would have given him back to Judd, Judd would just abuse him more than he would.
Yes,
So,
but
maybe you're saying yes because he saved Shiloh from Judd.
but also there's a downside to it.
Any other reasons for yes? For a yes. Zane?
Yes, because he protected Shiloh from lots of abuse.
Protected him from abuse. That's a great one. Monica?
What Judd said that he would like knock the lake or whatever out of him.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay. Well, so like he kind of just like saved a life.
Yeah, he saved a life. He protected him. He saved Shiloh. We could even say saved Shiloh's life. Brooke?
This is actually, I think, one reason. Why not?
So maybe there's also some people who might say no, he didn't make good choices.
I think it's because that he did save Shiloh's life and everything, but it's gonna be pretty bad because when Judd is gonna find out how is Marty's parents gonna save him, or how is Marty gonna save Shiloh?
So maybe Judd will be extra mad, and how is he going to keep him, right? Why else do you think Marty did not make good choices? Can you think of another reason, even if you didn't pick this one? Why might somebody think that Marty did not make good choices? Alicia?
It's kind of off of Brooks, but if Judge finds out, he might kick the dog more and make Marty in trouble or like hurt him maybe.
Yeah, Marty might get into trouble. Not only with Judd, who else might Marty get in trouble? With his parents. Marty in trouble. Why else was this maybe not the best choice? Micah?
Because if Judd finds out, he might take the dog back and abuse him. And if he ever gets enough money to buy him, he might not sell him.
Oh, yeah, Judd might not sell Shiloh, right? Because Marty kind of stole him, didn't he? Yeah, Claire?
If like the family's outside and they hear and like Shiloh starts to like whimper like bark or something,
Yeah.
the family like might find out and go.
The family might find out. Why is that a problem if the family finds out? Why is that a problem? Claire?
Because like the parents they don't want a dog because like they can't afford it.
Is it? Yeah. It's not because they don't want Shiloh, right?
They just can't afford like the food and stuff.
They can't afford. Is that really fair to Shiloh, to any animal, to take it if you can't give it good food or get it healthy?
No.
That's not very fair, right? Okay, so that's what Mom and Dad are thinking. Rose?
No, because if like Judge breaks the rules and it goes on that trail that Shiloh's penny, he'll be like, what is this? Why is my dog in here? And then he'll take the dog, and then Marty will go up there and be very concerned.
Yeah, because remember, the Shiloh's pen is where? On the hill. Who owns the hill? His dad does. But knowing what we know about Judd, does he follow rules?
No.
So do you think he might try and go on that hill?
Yeah.
Maybe. That's a good inference thinking about Judd's character. Thomas?
This isn't like no, but like when he started chapter on how he found a dead dog.
Uh-huh.
He was a guy who shoots Shiloh.
Say that last part again. I couldn't quite hear you.
Maybe get so mad at him kill Shiloh.
Maybe he would kill Shiloh like that other beagle. Do you agree with Marty that maybe that beagle was from Judd?
Yes.
Yeah, right, because we know Judd isn't really. What else? How do we know that for sure, even though we don't know? Why are we so positive that Judd did that to the beagle? Think back to what we know about Judd and animals. Not just the beagles. Think back to other animals. How else do we know? Monica?
He also said that he accidentally ran over the deer.
He ran over the deer, quote, right? Did he really run over the
Marty
deer?
actually saw the buckshot in it.
Right? Lily?
Like, he always says, like, I keep him half starved.
Right, and he keeps his animals half starved. And was that a thinner beagle that he found?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we know that too. Holly?
It's another one. Like, and it's like
Marty said if he finds Shiloh again, he would try to bring him back, and that if Judd finds out that he didn't do that, then he might also like kill him.
He might just out of spite, kind of, right? Like, you said you were going to keep my promise, and you didn't. I know there's so much more. We could go on all day about this, couldn't we? Let's take a look at the cause and effect part next. Okay? Do you remember what cause and effect is? Cause and effect. Cause is something that happens, and an effect is the
Effect of what you did.
with the result, right? So this is kind of like your start, and this is your result, or what happened right after. We're going to do the first one together so you can see, okay? So our cause, our start is Shiloh got loose from Judd again when they were hunting. What happened right after? Think right after. Ryan?
Marty found Shiloh laying in the grass.
Marty found Shiloh in the grass. At his house, we could say too, right?
Yeah.
Marty found Shiloh at his house. Now notice, when you're done, the second one is backwards. I give you the result. What made it happen? Think through that for your homework. And then take a look down here. Both of those boxes are empty. You get to make up your own from the chapter. Don't make up like it rained. The sidewalk was wet. Does that have anything to do with Shiloh? No.
It has like a side effect on Marty.
It could be from Marty, okay? It could be about the fence. What's happening? Think Marty made the fence. What effect is happening after Marty made the fence? Okay? So I want you to do those two for your homework. All right? And let me know if you have questions.